Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Chris. And there's Chris, myself, and Alberto. The three of us form the Purpose Collective. We've never met in person as a trio, but we came together during lockdown through a shared passion about purpose and wanting to generate more conversations about purpose that would buzz people to then go out and make a difference in their corner of the world. Very briefly, my background's as a business psychologist. I'm an author. I write about purpose and meaningful conversations, and I'm often on the corporate pitch coaching leadership teams. And later in this session, we're going to be covering a tool that I use in that team coaching work. So on that, I'm going to hand across to Alberto.
Hi everyone. So Alberto, originally from Spain, but living in the Netherlands in The Hague for almost 13 years. My background is in sales, almost 20 years in sales and sales leadership roles. I don't like sales, so I was struggling for a long time to find out, my own purpose and what I really wanted to do. And in the end, with some inspiration, I got there. I developed kind of an exercise or a methodology to help me uncover my own purpose. And then I started that, doing this with people and also with companies. So now I have my own company. It's called Just on Purpose. And that's what I do. I help organizations, leaders and teams to uncover their purpose and try to change the way they do things. And and I didn't meet these guys, indeed, never in person, but I was planning to do this event in just myself in London, like last year. And then I had a conversation with Chris, and hey, shall we do it together? And then Chris kind of brought Sarah in, and then when we were gonna announce that event, we had everything ready, and we were thinking about having maybe around 50 people max. Then the Corona thing came, and we had to cancel everything. But we converted that into these conversations, and now it's like, how many people we have now? Like 800 people or more. Close to 100 to 1,000, I think, registering all the events. So yeah, great things happening here.
Excellent. And I'll introduce myself very briefly. So I'm Chris Blackwell. I run an organization called Purpose-Led Performance. We work with businesses to really dissolve the perceived conflict between being purpose-driven and doing business in the right way with being profit-driven. Because I think the orthodox view, whether you're in business or potentially whether you're in government or in the voluntary sector, is that you have to trade one off against the other. And my strong view and my experience through my career is actually you can be very purposeful and very successful in business. And so I work with organizations on leadership, on growth, on performance. So welcome everybody to the Purpose Collective. Sarah, do you want to give a bit of a rundown of what we're going to be doing today, and then we can get through? So you're going to be our leader, I guess, for a lot of today's session.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. So overall, what we want to do is give you the opportunity to have some conversations connected with purpose about one another in much smaller groups. So a couple of opportunities are coming up for you to go into a breakout room where you'll be with about 3 other people. And before each of those, we're going to do 2 things. I'm going to give you some short input as input for those conversations, something to talk about, a lens at looking through purpose with. And we're also, and I'm really excited about this, we're going to hear from 2 of our community members here about them and their connection with purpose. So very shortly, we're going to hear from Steve Cook. So away from you, Steve.
Hello.
Thank you. And also from Catherine Knight. So maybe, Catherine, you could give us a wave. And thank you very much to the both of you for being willing to just have the spotlight on you for a couple of minutes. We're going to keep it succinct and pacey. We'll hear from Catherine a bit later on in the session. But first off, we're going to hear from Steve. And I think, Chris, you're going to take us through this part.
I am. So very quick fire questions to get to know Steve. And Steve, I think, has been with us right from the very beginning. And I think has probably come to every single session. So it's great to put the spotlight on Steve. So Steve, tell us, what do you do?
Well, I play the saxophone, and I play it badly. When I'm not doing that, I'm an organisational strategist. So I work with organisations from across business, civil society, and government in the UK and internationally on future state strategy developments. But I've also started a new venture which is centred around purpose-built coalitions between business, governments, and civil society to solve complex social problems. And I've just launched a global movement for change called Age of Human, which is designed to create an engine for business change. And Alberto, you'll love this, change in sales. Everything that I do is centered around purpose and purposeful change. And that's been my world for 35 years.
And whereabouts in the world are you, Steve? Where do you live?
I live in the middle of a field in the Cotswolds, in the Oxfordshire Cotswolds, surrounded by sheep and forests. And I'm about as far from the sea as you can get in the UK.
Okay. And tell us, you've been coming to the Purpose Collective since June, and you've engaged in lots of sessions. What do you enjoy about the Purpose Collective? What benefit do you get?
Well, I think hearing so many different perspectives on what purpose is and how it's evoked by people, or in some cases not. You know, I've seen purpose evolve and become very deliberate, and I've seen it being misused and abused and reach a level of maturity now that I think it deserves. There's a long way to go, and I think the Purpose Collective and everybody involved with it is really accelerating the thinking and talking around that.
And how would you like to see the Purpose Collective and this community develop?
Well, as I said, I love seeing purposeful exchange of ideas, and I think the more that we can start to change that exchange of ideas into a sort of co-creation of actions, I think that would be really great. You know, as the Purpose Collective grows, and I imagine it contributing real and very doable sort of change-making advice to organisations, and I think that's a really exciting emerging engine that's come out of these debates.
Cool. And do you have a purpose superhero?
Yeah, I've got two. I would say that my number two favourites would be Professor Colin Mayer. He was instrumental in the redefinition of the purpose of the corporation and really spent a lot of his career centred around that. And he masterminded the agreement that was signed in the US by 200 plus CEOs in 2019 to adopt purposeful principles as their driving focus for their businesses. And I work with him at Oxford University Saïd Business School a lot. He's the most unfluffy person you could ever wish to meet, and yet his world is about purpose. Okay,
and then a last one. If you had to sum up your personal purpose in one sentence, what would it be?
Okay, my purpose is to use all of my dubious experience to bring together inspiring people from business, governments and the civil society in purposeful coalitions, really deliberate coalitions to solve complex social challenges and then keep them solved. And that's a really big one, but I'm going to realise it.
Cool. And that was a big sentence, but a good one. Steve, thank you. Thank you for being our first ever spotlight. Just in the chat, somebody's asked for you if you could drop the details of the professor that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But back to Sarah.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. And great to hear there about purposeful change, purposeful interactions and co-creating. So what we're going to do next, so a quick bit of input. And then, as I say, we're going to go into breakout rooms. And our focus here is what's your attitude towards work? How do you see work? And the reason we're doing this is because I think when we're connected on purpose, then it actually really shifts our attitude towards work. So I'm going to share my screen here and just talk you through this, the different ways that we might see work. And so here's a spectrum of different places we could be in relation to work. And I think it ranges from work as a necessary evil. And I always think, I must admit, of my car mechanic in this place. When I booked him to do the MOT a couple of years ago, he came, my car was difficult engine to get at. And he just looked at me and said, "I hate my job." And guess what? I actually never booked him again after that, because his energy was so down. And some people are in that place where work is just a real drag. Secondly, work might be seen as a source of stress, not necessarily that same necessary evil, but it could be something that we find really quite difficult and not energizing and engaging in any way. Sorry, Guy, I've just lost the picture on my screen. Oh dear, I'm not using my own laptop, so
We can see it.
I'm going to get some help in just a moment. Oh dear, here we go. Sorry, guys, I had it
on the screen, Sarah. So we've got number 3, a daily grind, and number 4, a way to make a living. So,
Thank you.
Well, you get tech support.
Thank you very much. I'm on a borrowed laptop, so as my own laptop is destroyed at the moment. So yeah, work could be seen as a daily grind, a way to make a living. In the next place, coming up our spectrum here, it might be a way that I define myself. So, you know, we might be, when we're asked, what do you do? We might be quite identified with our work and our career. In the next place, we might start to see our work as a form of creative expression. And I think once we're arriving in this place here, our work and our daily role becomes much more engaging and energizing. And finally, we might actually see our work as an exciting way to be part of something much bigger than ourselves. And I think this is where purpose really plays its part, because at the center of our work, we might see our beneficiaries, the people that we're here to serve. And you might be familiar with this notion of cathedral thinking, where we're not so much focused on laying the bricks or mixing the cement, but actually we're also connected with that much bigger picture and that overall contribution that we're making. Oh dear, I've lost my screen again. Sorry, it just zooms away on this laptop. So we
just got it back. If you go back a screen.
Thank you. It does these whooshing things that I'm not used to. So what I'd like you to think about, you might think about where you are on that spectrum for yourself. And I'm also going to acknowledge that we might not stay in one place all the time. We might be in different places on that spectrum on different days and in different moments. What I'd like you to think about now is something that comes to mind in your role, that's something you have to do, that brings a sense of burden, if you like. And I think we've all got these things, whether it's to, I don't know, I'm not very good with PowerPoint slides. So when I have to design a deck of them, you know, I can sort of feel, even though I'm interested in the content, the technicalities of that can be a bit burdensome. So just what I'd like you to do is think about something you have to do. And 1 or 2 things might come to mind. And in your breakout rooms very shortly, what we're going to be asking you to do is to support and challenge one another. I've lost my screen again. I'm so sorry. Oh dear, I'm sorry. What I'd like you to do in your breakout rooms is support and challenge one another to shift that perspective to, instead of I have to, I get to. So if I think of myself with my PowerPoint deck, it's not so much, oh, you know, I have to kind of, you know, put all these different detailed things together, but it's I get to have an engaging conversation with people. I get to, I think as Steve was talking about, I get to maybe learn some different perspectives, get some different angles. I get to maybe get an insight that I didn't have before. So we're going to go into breakout rooms very shortly. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can hit on the right place on the screen. There we go. I can see you all again. So we're going to go for about 10 minutes in the breakout rooms and see if you can support and challenge each other to make that shift from the I have to the I get to in your daily role. So Chris,
okay, so I'm clicking the button. The rooms are about to open. You should get a message, and we shall see you back in just a little bit more than 10 minutes.
We'd love to hear some responses. So you could put in the chat box if you could make an example of that shift. But if you're willing just to speak out as well, if you could raise your hand and unmute yourself, we'd love to hear an example or two. Is that Valerie with her hand raised? Valerie. Oh, unmute yourself, Valerie. Valerie, we can't unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm done. I just had an amazing conversation, two amazing men who listened to me waffle on about my phobia about technicalities and appearing the generation I'm in and wanting to look relevant and wanting still to look together and cogent, and the technical stuff terrifies me. And the only way to deal with that is actually to get on and learn it. But actually, Chris was really interesting. He said, what do you really want to get to? And I actually want to change capitalism. So, so start off with, I need to have my technical skills in order to grow and change capitalism. It's not a small ask, is it? But it was really interesting.
Oh, great. Thank you, Valerie. And I can certainly empathise with the getting to grips with technology. So thank you very much. And maybe one other, as I say, you could put responses in the chat box as well, but could we maybe hear from one other person? And again, if you could raise your hand and unmute yourself, it would be lovely to hear another voice. David, thank you.
Sorry, just a little cough there. Before I start, I just want to say hello to Andrew Tapson. I just noticed Andrew Tapson on the screen. Hello, mate. How are you?
Hey, stranger. How are you?
I'm good. You?
I can't see you.
I'm talking, so yeah.
There you are.
There you go.
Hello.
I'll catch up with you offline.
Yeah, catch up. Yeah.
Sorry, Andrew and I used to work together 25 years ago. I was late into this because I was on a call with a client that overran, so apologies for that. But I came into a small group and we had a really, really interesting discussion, and we all kind of had different angles, but it was fascinating how for each of the three of us, purpose was at the very core of what we were trying to do, and how you actually can build a business around the purpose, so that in a very real way, it's like Simon Sinek and his why at the center of the golden circle. And I just thought that was really cool.
Great. Thank you, David. Putting purpose at the core, getting that really clear, engaging and energizing why. I don't know if there's anybody else burning to share. Otherwise,
Deborah with her hand up.
Who was that, Chris?
Deborah.
Deborah.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm just sending out all kinds of love to all of you because this has been an amazing pandemic experience being part of the collective purpose. I think with my group of guys that we've talked about, what one of the things was this difficulty of getting yourself sort of keeping on track and living in a new gig economy where every day you have to kind of wake up project by project and like an actor, you're only as good as your last role, and summons up sort of that deep inner drive to keep the energy flowing and to keep engaged. And so we all sort of have, our stories were interesting. One person is a storyteller, a corporate storyteller, which is a super exciting thing. Another person was a social worker. I could name you guys, but I'll let you guys speak up for yourselves. A social worker who does, who's working on the social good on the healthcare side. I mean, just think how big that is right now, how important the sectors are in terms of storytelling and helping in healthcare. And then I work in peace building and advise in many different things. So it's like a collective storm in the best possible way, I would submit. So energy is I think what we share. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Deborah. And absolutely, we're all in a new now. We're, the gig economy, full of challenges and opportunities as well. So thank you. So at this point, we're going to do another spotlight, and I'm going to hand across here to Alberto.
So we have another guest here, Catherine Knight. Can you wave your hands? So
I've been unmuted.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. And so you've been, coming to these conversations about purpose for a while already, so many of them. and we really appreciate it. So we wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And the first one is, what do you do?
I'm a business psychologist. I run my own management consulting practice. So all my career has been working within organisations as a consultant, as an outside. I did a little bit of internal, but it's very much working with leaders in global organisations, often facing change, sometimes defining the change. Sometimes it's the change is there and we need to work with it. But spending a lot of my time talking with individuals about how do I lead? Why don't they understand me? But also how do I get others to buy in, fill in with this? So I quite often will do a lot of work around how do we make it happen? I might work over a period of time. Sometimes it's all one-to-one coaching. It's a bit of a mix. Okay. But it's fundamentally how do we move forward? Second role, and it will come in a bit later as well, I'm a board member for a Swiss charity. So I went into that. So suddenly I'm a member of a team, not external. You know, but actually part of my role is about how do we work as a team and how do we deliver in Ethiopia? Because it's all about delivering projects on the ground and transition and giving skills, enabling people to lead in Ethiopia.
Great. Thank you. And where do you live?
I live between Cambridge and London. I don't live in a field like Steve, but there aren't many more houses around me. I'm in a small village of 40 houses. We have a pub. Those of you who are in the UK will appreciate pubs are a really important thing. We have a pub, a church, and a village hall.
Okay.
It's an interesting place to be locked down for a second time.
Okay. And what do you enjoy the most about the Purpose Collective?
I really like hearing the stories. So Steve talked a lot about the theories, and I kind of listened to that. I thought, actually, I like the stories. You know, I take away the Unilever, the BP story. I kind of want to follow those stories. I want to know the different organisations, what impact it's having, how I can take it and move conversations forward. I want the breakout rooms give such a great insight into that breadth of experience and knowledge, and a chance to explore and hear different perspectives. So I'm looking on the Purpose Collective as my stretching what I know and giving me stuff to add to my narratives with clients when I go in terms of have a read about this. Have you heard of that? I found myself last week talking about the B organisations that were mentioned in Sarah's conversation back in June. I think it was July. And I was talking about, have you heard about, and it was a good way to bring people's thinking forward.
Thank you. And how would you like to see the Purpose Collective developing in the future?
I think I might have given a clue. Keep going. I want more success stories. I want to know about how it's going forward. I want to hear, so, get the balance right. And you have done so far around the management theories, the organisational, coming out of the business schools. But actually, I want to hear it happening. I re-listened to the BP one because it was someone saying, how do you get the attention of a CEO? So that's what I would like. Keep coming, keep going, get that mix right.
Okay.
So sometimes, I'm talking success, but also that there will be that didn't go well. And even the ones that are the success stories, a little bit of, we rebuilt, we rethink. When a change is a journey, to use the old phrase, but it gets wiggly. It goes up and down, backwards and forwards, and we need to hear some of those as well.
Thank you. And who is your Purpose superhero, and why?
And why? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about someone who died 2 weeks into lockdown. Her name's Catherine Hamlin, and she's a gynecologist who in 1958 went with her husband to Ethiopia. They're both gynecologists and surgeons. Discovered that women in Ethiopia were dying from something called fistula. So after childbirth. Fistula occurs when you're in a long, unmanaged labour. We don't see it in our worlds. It's very rare. We've managed it away. She stayed there with her husband, moved people forward, built a hospital. Also realised that it takes a number of surgeries. So she then built a rehabilitation unit, managed to get funding to build 5 more regional hospitals, realised that wasn't enough, created a midwife college so that midwives could go out and prevent it. When I was there in March, she was dying. I didn't meet her, but she had a really simple purpose. And it was, my dream is to eradicate obstetric fistula from Ethiopia. She was 94 at this stage. I won't achieve this in my lifetime, but you can in yours. And she created an organisation around that purpose. When you met people, whether they were a midwife, out, I don't know, 900 kilometres from the centre of town, they could talk about what their purpose was, what they were out there, what they were doing. You know, people could play it back. So from that perspective, it was a fantastic insight into making a purpose into a reality. Everyone you met in the organisation could turn around. So that's my hero.
Okay. What's your purpose in a sentence?
Yeah, you know, I found this one the most difficult. Quite know why. And I think, you know, it's about enabling, and I kind of get caught in the word, but enabling people to lead, deliver, you know, make their dreams happen, achieve their potential, because it's not just about organisational life. I kind of get into some of this in some of the NGO work and elsewhere, but it's working through people. Okay. It wasn't a sentence, sorry.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Very inspiring, and thanks for sharing these stories as well. Shara, back to you.
Thank you, Alberto, and yes, thank you, Catherine, and brilliant that you've brought a story to us as well, and of your own work in Ethiopia. Thank you. So we want to do one more thing with you, a very short piece of input and then back into a breakout room. And what I want to just talk you through quickly is a tool that I use around purpose in my team coaching work. And I'm also going to acknowledge where the inspiration came from. And this is the work of Dan Cable. A brilliant book, Alive at Work, and lots of neuroscience in this book. And I stumbled across this activity in his book. And he also quotes research showing that teams who engage in this activity go on to perform better. Anyway, I'm not going to cover the research. I'm just going to cover the activity with you. And what it does, it involves you thinking about yourself and your role in a different way. So there you are, you might be in the team, you might be the finance director, but what feels more engaging and energizing for you rather than just being in the FD role with the FD label? Who are you really? What do you really bring to the team? So I'm going to give you some examples of roles that teams I've worked with people have come up with. So here we go. Here's a team. And when I give you the alternative role, see if you can guess what the formal role title was. So this first one here, if I can find my arrow on the screen, the first one, company conscience rep. Who do you think this was in the team? Well, I'll reveal it's the chairman. That's how he thought about himself. Next up, the director of dollars and cents. So the person that came up with that was our head of business development. Then we had the purveyor of positive news. Can you guess who that is? Maybe you can. That's the person in PR doing the comms work. Then we've got the goddess of greetings, very important role. He or she might be the first person you meet in the company. That is the receptionist. Then we've got the ambassador of humanity. And I really have met somebody who thinks about themselves in these terms rather than being the HR director. Mr. Fix-It, and proud he was of being Mr. Fix-It too. That was really energizing for him as the IT director. Couple more to share. Queen of the bank. And she was regal, this woman, as the finance director. And as soon as she said it in the room, I saw smiles spread across all the rest of the leadership team. And finally, chief cheerleader, that was the CEO that I worked with. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there, come back to you. And you're going to go into breakout rooms again very shortly, and you're going to support and challenge one another to come up with an alternative role title for yourselves. So, Chris, if you could please.
Is it worth, Sarah, just saying, because we actually did this exercise for ourselves, and we actually don't know. So Alberto and I did this for Sarah, and we decided that you would be called the Wizard of Words.
The Wizard of Words. Love it. So we're getting allocated. Thank you, Chris. And maybe you're quite right. We did do this. And Alberto, what did we come up with for Chris?
Well, he's definitely the Lord of the Visions.
Yeah, he's Lord of the Visions. Very good. Thank you. And Chris, do you want to say what we came up with for our dear colleague Alberto?
With Alberto, you prompted. I thought you were going to do Alberto.
I've got it.
Alberto is the high priest of digital, video, and smiles.
Who takes the best screenshots? So
that reminds me that maybe it's good to have one, to take one just in case.
Do you want to do that?
Okay, so you need to just smile, even if you don't like the session, right? That's how this works. So I'm gonna make two pictures because there are two screens. So 1, 2, 3, smile. And let's keep smiling because I need to do this entire screen. Oh, no, it didn't work. So you need to smile again. Just 1 second. I need to, prepare better next time. So I'm, just 1 second. Now it's gonna work. Okay, smile, smile, smile. 1, 2, 3. And the other screen. Smile again. 1, 2, 3. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to open the rooms. I think a quick 6 minutes in the rooms. Do we think, Sarah? Very quickly share with each other what your alternative job title would be, and we'll see you back here at 10:56.
Great. So we'd love you to share, if you were willing, in the chat box your official role title, what you came up with your alternative role title. I'm really mindful of the time. We've just got a couple of minutes, but we'd love to hear a couple spoken out as well, if you were willing. Perhaps you can hear a couple of different voices. Would you be willing to raise your hand? Tim, I can see you.
I will. It's a bit of as we've got a multicultural background, it's a bit niche, but I'm a communications designer as a rule, which means I do commercial and corporate storytelling. So mine was taken from my childhood in the UK and been Jack O'Norrie. If you remember Jack O'Norrie, loads of you won't get what that is because you're not old enough or from a different country. But I just
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Tim. I remember Jack O'Norrie. Thank you. And perhaps one other example, and thank you for those going in the chat box as well. Somebody else willing for a hand?
Kevin, I think Kevin is raising his hand.
Okay, yeah. So I'm boringly the managing director of my business. So so for me, I'm the chief future builder, because that's what I want to be part of, building futures.
Oh, I love that, the chief future builder. And hasn't that got a different feel to managing director? Thank you, Kevin. Lovely example. And this is the thing about purpose. It engages and it energizes us. And I have a friend and a colleague, he said it kind of should light us up like a Christmas tree. when we're connected on purpose. So we can have fun with these role titles. But as I said, there's actually research there that says that teams that engage in this activity, it increases their performance because people have a clearer sense of their place in the team and get to see one another's unique contribution more clearly. So that's a wrap in terms of our content today. We do want to make a couple of announcements about the future. Alberto, Chris, would you like to cover that for us? One of
Alberto, you go.
Chris, you go.
So we've got the next session in 2 weeks' time. So we have next session is a guest speaker. So we will share with you by email the details of that, and we hope that you can join us in 2 weeks' time. And we also have one more
this time, Chris. The 10th, I think, is the 10th of December.
10th of December, yes. So we share that by email and the details. And Alberto, we've got one exciting piece of news which I'm going to let you share.
Yeah, so we are also running a masterclass at the end of January, and this will be a totally different session. It is a paid one, so this time is a bit different, but we will do some practical work around purpose, mainly focus on teams and team purpose, but also we will touch, of course, individual purpose a bit and organization's purpose. So more information will be shared on LinkedIn, and all, we will share with you as well. But basically, just for you to know that that's coming on the 28th, I think, of January. So stay tuned for that one as well.
Okay, and I guess the last thing to say is thank you to everybody. Thank you to our spotlights. For appearing today, and thank you to everybody for your contribution, because I think it's been a really good session, and hopefully we will see you all again soon. And so Sarah, do you want to have the final word?
Yeah, I'm just going to add my thanks. So very big thank you, particularly to Steve Cook and Catherine Knight. Steve, wonderful to hear your acknowledgement of your wife as well and her wonderful purpose-led work as your #1 superhero. Thank you both, and we wish you well, and hopefully Chris, Alberto and I will see you all on the 10th of December for the next gig. So see you then. Thank you very much.